Hi all, it's Christina Milianta, and I wanted to do a quick Q&A on a couple of thoughts that came up around tapping. So also, my office, I live on the floor so that I can really spread out. So if you ever see me sitting weird, it's because of that, because I tend to sit on the floor for pretty much everything I do. So, the first question I had come up in Q&A was, how often should I be tapping? Should this be daily? How frequently do I need? I have two answers for that. First off, tapping is a bit like meditation as far as the more you do it, the better the benefits get. So, we work through different issues with tapping. It really depends on what you're currently working on and how much time you have. It doesn't have to be a lot every day. I like to tap right before bed. It kind of cleans the slate for me so I can sleep better. Some people would do it first thing in the morning. If you are doing tapping specifically for food cravings and emotional eating, you would put your tapping anytime else, but also, right before you eat or when you have a serious food craving. It depends. So, the more you do it, the bigger the benefit becomes. Now, the caveat for that is that this particular style of tapping is a little bit different. And this gets into another question I'm going to answer in a second. So this style of tapping, it's designed to it pulls together elements from NLP, neuro-linguistic reprogramming, and some Eastern and Western combinations of things. EFT itself is based on an Eastern technique of using the acupressure points, right? So we're kind of seeing the best of both worlds when we do this particular style. What that means is that you can use it for a lot of other things. You can use it to go back through your past for trauma, but it is honestly the fastest way to permanently change how your brain is kind of categorizing these memories and our responses to the memories. So what that means is that eventually you're going to forget you ever had a problem with some of these things that you tap on. It's really nice because of that to keep a journal. I keep an online journal in my Google Docs that, I kind of talk through these realizations I get throughout my day, and I'll go back and tap on any of the ones that seem significant enough or that are maybe branches of things I'm already working on in my own tapping. So eventually you're not going to need to tap on the same things that you started out tapping for, because those problems will be permanently changed. Now, it doesn't mean that you forget. And as far as food, it doesn't mean you never get to eat that food again. It's that when you approach that memory or that circumstance or that food item, you no longer have the deeply responsive reaction to it. So you can choose how you respond. You can look back at something that happened in your past and have it still be a part of you without it forcing you to act a certain way or directing you a certain way in the moment, which is, that's like the best part of it. And I can attest, the very first full length tapping session I did was on an experience I've carried with me since I was 3 years old. So, let's briefly say that's more than 40 years. So when I went through the session on it, I realized that while that experience was directly related to a food experience that I'd had as a 3-year-old child, where a caregiver force-fed me food until I threw up on multiple occasions. You can go back and look through some of my stories or ask me questions. I'm totally fine to talk about it now. I have no, it doesn't pull on me anymore. That experience also made me realize that it put into action a number of programs, of ideas in my head about the way the world worked, that adults are always in charge, that my personal experience was always going to come second to somebody in charge, and that if I had a problem with something, there wasn't anybody safe that I could go to talk about it. And you can see, how those might relate to the circumstance as I just told you about, being force-fed food as a child, but where those might cause some pretty serious issues as an adult, or, going from that lovely transition between almost out of the house to out of the house, and the relationships we formed during that time. So, again, I can look back on that circumstance, and I use it to inform how I look at things now, but I don't have any connection to it. If something happened to come up or something happened to trigger me, and at this point, I actually can't imagine what that would be, which is shocking to say, I would tap on what that brings up, but I don't need to tap on the previous things I used to. The things I choose to now have changed. They've gotten much more subtle. So as far as how often you tap, I tap on an issue, if I can, once a day or a few times a week, or when I'm specifically triggered, until that issue is no longer an issue. And it's really feels great to say that, because this kind of permanently resolves any of those experiences. It's amazing. All right, so the second question is, why has tapping not worked for me in the past around food? So like I said, this type of tapping is very different. It was developed by an amazing lady. Her name is Brittany Watkins. She's actually my mentor for this type of work. And she spent years doing tapping work and also could not resolve her eating issues around it. And so she spent a lot of time following her intuition and learning different things and doing a lot of study and research to come up with this style that she then tried out on a whole bunch of people, and discovered that you can use this NLP and EFT combo to rewire your brain, and how you store a memory, what feelings are attached to that memory, and that classical tapping doesn't cover what needs to be fixed, because it doesn't define between emotional eating and food cravings. And there's two very different techniques you have to use in order to make progress with those. If you are ever interested in that, I do 30-minute craving sessions, just so we can meet and see if what I have to offer for you is of any interest. They're totally complimentary. I like meeting people. I love helping people. That's who I am. So that's a really instant gratification. People in, 30 to 45 minutes can set down food they have never been able to walk away from, or haven't been able to walk away from in years. And I wish that I would have had this kind of knowledge when I was doing my last competition prep, because that food, it just calls from the kitchen, right? You're on low calories, and and you can practically hear it screaming at you. And if I had been able to do some of this tapping work, I wouldn't have struggled with my last competition prep. There's plenty of other things to struggle with in prep, right? You don't have to make food one of them. So that's why traditional EFT will not work. It won't. You can make some progress, but it's not going to permanently resolve your issues around whatever food. All right, so the third question is, what is the difference between like a food craving and emotional eating? Right? These are the two main categories that things fall into, and our traumas, our past, can actually really be more, they go more in one direction than the other. So we have these food cravings, right? You have these really intense, I can't keep it in the house, I will eat it. Most people, if I ask them how long it takes them to go through, a bag or a package of whatever food they crave, they kind of like, they hedge it a little bit. They go, well, it's like, it's pretty quick. Okay, well, give me roundabout how many days, hours, weeks, however. And they go, well, it's like probably less than a day, because we're made to feel shame for having these things that really aren't our fault. Like, they go back in our brains, right? It's not your fault. I'm going to tell you that. People cry when I tell them that in sessions. It's not your fault, right? So food cravings they're this connection to a past event where we had this food or something very, very similar to it with someone we loved, and there's a positive experience, right? It could be your honeymoon, it could be your grandma's kitchen table, it could be family dinners. It doesn't matter. We have this strong emotional positive connection that we are seeking to replicate. Okay, so that is why food cravings are so intense. Usually we can't help ourselves. We'll gobble things up. People are generally pretty kind when they say it's a day. A lot of people, when they say a day, they actually mean, you know, I open the package, it's gone in less than an hour. And I say that without judgment. I've been there too. The emotional eating side, generally, you know, we've had a bad day, we're stressed, we're experiencing grief or loss, we're angry, we're feeling controlled, we're trying to push something out of our lives, and we do that with food. That is the one that trauma normally falls under a little bit more. And there are some really specific trauma triggers for that. And it's beautiful to watch this process unfold and unwind those. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea, and I'm more than happy to answer more questions. Just let me know. If you're interested in trying out a complimentary session with me, about 30 minutes on food cravings, just hit me up in my DMs, okay? I'm always happy to help. It makes my day. It's the best part of my day. So thank you so much for joining me in this Q&A. I love your questions. I will see you next time. Bye.